being here, and thank you everyone for coming. I'm here to share the 84,000 journey. As you heard, I come from the organization 84,000 Translating the Words of the Buddha, and our main mission is to bring Asia to preserve the salvation in ancient wisdom heritage through translation and to make them available to the modern world. So this is our mission. It's a global non-profit initiative to translate the words of the Buddha. So many of you may know that you know that there's this person Buddha who existed in India more than 2,500 years ago, and the story goes he left his palace and all that, and then became enlightened, became a Buddha, and after that he passed away. But most people do not know that the most exciting part of his life was his teaching career. He engaged in 45 years, almost half a century of teaching in India, walking barefooted all around the Himalayas and other places. And nowadays we have the complete works of Shakespeare. We learn about what Socrates or what Plato thought about, how they thought about the world and about the universe. But not many of us have access to the 45 years of teachings and dialogues that the Buddha had with the kings and servants of that time. So, after the Buddha passed away, many of his disciples or his friends and followers actually put together, compiled his teachings, and because it's so massive, voluminous, it forms what we call Buddhist canons. The picture in the middle is one of the libraries that actually house these canons. As you can see, it is really voluminous. And later I'll explain how big it is. And then there are various massive major translation movements that happen all over in the world, such as in China, it happened for more than 1,000 years, and in Tibet it happened over 700 years. So these Buddhist canons form the basic literature of Buddhist studies and philosophy all around the world today. And originally it was first written down in Pali and Sanskrit. In the Sanskrit literature, Sanskrit canon was eventually translated into Chinese and Tibetan, but unfortunately due to political upheavals that happened in India in the late, around the 11th century, almost the entire Sanskrit canon has been destroyed or is lost to the world. So right now, what we have remaining of the Sanskrit canon is mostly preserved in the Tibetan and the Chinese canons, as you can see. So this is a fragment of one of those Tibetan texts that people have preserved. This was preserved by an Indian scholar called Rahu Sanskrityana, who actually collected these texts from Tibet. So this was the beginning of 84,000. In 2009, more than 50 of the world's foremost translators in the field of Buddhist text translation, they gathered for a week in a seminal conference to discuss about translation issues. And there they realized that there's an urgency, because they realized that at that point, only less than 5% of the Tibetan Buddhist literary heritage has been translated. At the same time, the number of Himalayan, Tibetan, Indo-Tibetan scholars who have been trained at least for 9 years in the study of these texts, and some engaged in actual practice of 3 to 9 years of retreat or more, those people who actually studied and practiced these teachings, many of them have passed away, or the remaining ones are very few or old. Therefore, they gathered together to form the 84,000. And our vision is to translate these texts from classical Tibetan into modern languages, first starting with English. And so the Tibetan canon, there are two major parts. The first major section is called the Ganjur, which contains the words of the Buddha, and that has 70,000 pages, or more than 1,000 texts. As for the Danjur, which are the commentaries of ancient Indian scholars on the Buddha's words, that itself is more than twice the size of the Ganjur. So in total, the whole Buddhist Danjur, the Tibetan Buddhist literary heritage, has more than 230,000 pages. So you can imagine why the whole library is full of these texts. And our goal is to complete the Ganjur in 25 years and the Danjur in 100 years. So it is actually essentially a 100-year project. So 3 years into existence, currently 84,000 is funding more than 100 translators from all over the world. Half of them are the traditional Indo-Himalayan Buddhist scholars, scholars, Tibetan scholars, including Sanskrit scholars. And half of them are from universities, the university academics, like those from Oxford, University of Tokyo, Vienna, and so on. And we are commissioning 10,000 pages of translation, which is more than 15% of the Ganju. Remember, we started with less than 5% of the entire Ganju and Tenju, and now we are actually more than 15% of part 1. And also, we have published more than 130 pages, the first 10 texts, on our online reading room, which I'll show you later. So, because this is dealing with translation, and it is not like contemporary translation, it is dealing with very ancient material using classical Tibetan, that even modern Tibetan, some of them may have some difficulty understanding. So, it is very important to ensure some very high level of translation quality. Anyone is welcome to visit our website to download our editorial policy, which is more than 20 pages. But in essence, our translation and editorial principles are based on 3 traditional principles. The principle of accuracy to the source language, which includes both Tibetan and Sanskrit. Because remember, Tibetan was translated from Sanskrit, even though the Sanskrit source texts are mostly gone. And secondly, which is elegance in the target language, and thirdly is readability in the target language. For those familiar with Chinese translation, it is actually it corresponds to 信达雅 in Chinese translation. And it is very important because first of all, when you translate, you need to know the accurate meaning. You can't translate it into something that's completely different from what it originally meant. But at the same time, because you're translating to a new language, so it must actually sound, it must be understood correctly by the audience. Therefore, this principle, therefore we follow what we call the traditional Pandita Lotawa approach. Pandita, the Indians would be familiar with this term, it means scholars. Scholars from the original language, for scholars of the source language who understand the culture and philosophy, as well as the Lotawa, which is a Tibetan word, which means translators. So you need the dual approach, you need both experts coming together to work together. And this Pandita Lotawa approach is reflected throughout the whole process of our translation and editorial process. So we have 4 levels of, we have a system which looks at, we have 4 levels to actually ensure that we have a good translation quality. First, we run selection. We select about 1/3 of the applicants every year. And then we have in-house editorial guided by editorial committee. After all the translators submit their drafts 3 to 6 months by email to us, and we work with them. And after it goes through our in-house editorial, it goes to an external board of reviewers. Again, half of them are the Indo-Himalayan scholars, and half of them are the Western academics. And finally, it goes through all the pre-publication phases, which many of the publishers here would be understanding. So our challenges. And this picture behind it, someone is trying to fly, do paragliding, is full of challenges. But if you are fully prepared, then you can fly and enjoy the scenery. But if you're not fully prepared, you can just fall and die. So here I'm just going to share how technology plays such an important role in our work, in preserving this ancient heritage. First of all, look at the source text. It is so much. I mean, the whole camera can't even capture all the text that we're trying to translate. And some of these texts are not even kept in places as convenient as the Singapore National Library. Some of these texts are kept in mountains, hills of these 900-year-old temples at 500 km above ground and all that. So how do we actually get these translators to work together? And also, when we talk about the Ganju and Tenju, there are at least 5 to 8 editions of each of these Ganju and Tenju, because it's the hard work of centuries of people carving them into wood blocks, printing them, writing them, and with all kinds of materials. So some of them are clear, some of them are not so clear, and sometimes there's some errors in transcription. So how to clean that all up? It is all thanks to modern technology that we've been able to do it. Currently, our partner, Tibetan Buddhist Resource Center, which is another non-profit in the US, they have scanned 9 million pages of Tibetan text, all available for free, downloadable, or available in a hard drive. Furthermore, in China, there has been an initiative which they created the comparative edition of the Buddhist Tibetan and in Chinese. So this means that they actually compile all the major different versions or editions of the Ganju and Tenju together. So at a glance, the translator can actually consult different editions of the same text at the same time and note any significant differences between the texts. So we done several pilot tests and we found that using the comparative edition as well as all these digital resources has actually saved a huge amount of time and therefore money for our translation. Okay, sorry because I've not enough time to put together pictures, I just need to mention one in the slides. Also, tools and resources are of utmost importance. We have actually more than 10,000 pages of scanned dictionaries and all kinds of lexical resources available for our translators. And all these make it possible for us to work with a global team of more than 100 translators. So, okay, and then we are pressed in the modern society where people look at instant gratification. Even though we are working on a 100-year project, we are pressed to produce results. So, how do we produce quality results within a short frame of time? So what we have done is we adopted an iterative approach, meaning we do not wait. First of all, we want good quality, but at the same time, we do not wait until our technology is perfect before we make them available. So we actually partner with some existing organizations and build on their technological framework to build our reading room. And of course, we have a website based on WordPress, and then also a reading room, which I'll show you later. So within the second year, actually within one year and 2 months, we managed to publish our first 8 texts with the launch of the reading room. And through the experience gained, I'm not sure, I mean, some of you would be familiar with this because for a project like this, there's some projects of a similar skill. They actually take 3-4 years and they have not put anything online. The reason why we have been able to put things online is because we adopted this practical, iterative approach to put things online, to test, do small-scale projects, test them, find out issues, and try to fine-tune these developments. So that's how we have managed to work with technology. Okay, so I'd like to actually show you by the way, the picture behind is an actual reading room or a modern library. But what we're trying to do is to use technology to bring this heritage to the fingertips of everybody. And we all know there's at least 2 billion internet users in the world, so that's the most cost-effective way for now for us to share the information. By the way, the letters below are Tibetan, if you wonder. And since we have some time, let me just share a bit about Tibetan. It's very interesting. The Tibetan script is actually created based on the Sanskrit script because the Tibetan kings actually wanted to translate that genre of text. So at that time, in Tibet, there was only spoken languages. There was no written script. So they sent the best scholars, the best officials to India to study Sanskrit and created their language and grammar based on the Sanskrit grammatical rules and so on. That is why, even though the Sanskrit canon is lost, the Tibetan canon is actually a very, very close replica of the Sanskrit canon. And there has been so many efforts to retranslate in India, retranslate text from Tibetan into Sanskrit, so as to revive whatever they have lost. about technology is wonderful, but